Tom Pincince here, Interim Athletic Director, back for another Coach's Corner with three more of our head coaches. We have Dave Kelly, our Interim Men's Soccer Coach, Betsy Vendel, our Women's Lacrosse Coach, and Ryan McCarthy, our Football Coach. First of all, thank you to the three of you for joining me this afternoon. And Bets, I think I said your last name right. You've only been here for like 7 years, but I feel like we pronounced it wrong for the first 3 years you were here.
I think we got it right my senior year, so that's all that counts, right?
There you go. That's better than – we had a basketball player once, so Obi Wadiki, who was one of our great basketball players and graduated on that 07 team that was really good, came up to us the last game of the year and told us that we were pronouncing his last name wrong for the last 4 years. I'll never understand why kids don't speak up, right, and tell us what Gerard Can is another guy for football, Ryan, that I know. I think they called him Jared for 4 years and never said anything to us, or Derek Orange for football. I think we actually spelled his name wrong for 4 years, and he didn't tell us. So anyway, we're off on a tangent already. We've been talking for 2 minutes. Really what we're doing is trying to get everybody together just to see what you've been up to and what your teams have been up to, and how you manage to stay in touch with your teams, some things you've noticed for your teams. And, we've asked a little bit about leadership, if you've seen some certain people step up. So Bets, we'll start with you. What have you guys been doing to stay in touch? What your team in particular, but, you and Sierra and the coaching staff to stay in touch with your team?
I mean, for the most part, like towards the beginning of quarantine, we tried to keep it as normal as possible. So kind of wrapping up our season with our individual meetings and making sure to reach out one-on-one to kind of talk about, I mean, I know our season was cut short, but talk about what they want to see next year, where they want to improve, and then feedback from C&I from what we saw for the season. So kind of keeping it as normal as possible with the meetings that we go through. And then a lot of just communicating with the captains. The captains are really good at really connecting with the team. It's always like I almost always ask the captains a question. They're like, we'll just put it in the group chat. I'm like, okay, that works for me too. Whatever you guys want to do to get the group's opinion. But yeah, kind of just keeping in touch like that.
Dave, how about you and your team?
Pretty much the same. I think the preferred manner of communication with these guys is text, but I like to demonstrate that in the adult world. A lot of times we make phone calls, so I try to talk to each guy, at least once a week. We had individual meetings also. We're going to wrap things up on Monday with a team meeting on Monday. But I think the most important thing is just trying to keep in touch, let them know that you're there if they need anything, whatever. It's just important that they know that you're there. The feedback I got from the guys was for the first couple of weeks, I think they struggled a little bit with the lack of structure. Left to their own devices, I think they'll sleep till 2:00 in the afternoon and stay up all night. And so I think they struggle with that. Most of them told me that they ended up okay. And academically, I think the most important thing is that they're going to do well academically. So I just wanted to stay on top of them with that and make sure that, everybody was doing what they needed to do in order to finish out the semester strong.
And Ryan, you guys have not only a big staff to try to stay in touch with each other, but obviously the biggest team out there to try to stay in touch with those guys. What have you noticed? How have you guys done it, and how have you kept in touch?
Well, I would say that the one thing, not one thing, but multiple things, is that being away for 7 weeks away from one another, I want to see their face. I want to do Zoom time meetings, FaceTime meetings. If anything, this has, to me, maybe brought us closer together. I talk with certain players on our team 2 or 3 times a week, just checking in. And we're not talking about football or sports. We're talking about the other things. Is your family okay? Are you okay? We spend more of our time as a staff talking about academics. To Dave's point, we're talking about how things are going academically. And that's it. And so kids are sending me grades that they have, screenshots. And we have been on top of our kids right away from the jump. And I think it's paying dividends. I think some kids, yeah, you're right. I called one kid at 11 in the morning and I woke him up. 12:05 exam. I said, you better get your butt up and get in the shower and get ready for this exam. And
I've noticed it at home with my own kids. I think before all this happened, I was always the last person to go to bed.
Right.
But now it's, when I'm ready to go to bed, and I'm not going to tell you what time because it makes me sound old, But when I'm ready to go to bed, because Betsy will shake her head.
I go to bed at 9:30. Not
All
even
right, so we're good. So we're right about the same time. I know my oldest two are still awake, and they have a little bit of structure. They have to be up usually by 8:30 for school in West Hartford, but it's just different, right? It's I'm up by 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's I'm the only one up, and to me, not my family won't listen to this, but that first hour and a half when nobody else is awake, you can get up and do a little bit extra. You get more done in that hour and a half.
No
It's like going in and work on a holiday. Like when
Right.
nobody else is there, you can get more done. How about recruiting? They just extended the dead period to June 30th for every sport. Dave, maybe in particular with you, coming up on your first year as the interim head coach this fall, and really trying to put together a big part of your roster based on new bodies. What has recruiting been like for you during this time? And don't mention any violations in this, because Amy's going to watch this. So,
I think the thing about the dead period is that we're all following the dead period. So it levels the playing field in that sense. We can't have any visits, but neither can anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But it has been somewhat challenging. I think the university's done a really good job with the virtual campus tour. And I know a lot of our recruits have taken advantage of that. There's also some good YouTube stuff. There's a tour of the new rec center that I send out to recruits that they can take a look at. But it's just, you just have to meet the challenges that are being presented. And if you got to look at video and you get your staff to look at video and you're looking at highlights and, then that's what you have to do. So we're just trying to do the best we can under the circumstances.
Ryan, how about the loss of spring practice? And not that you don't practice in the spring, Dave, but as far as, putting in offenses, maybe new bodies coming on campus in that spring, some people seeing that, offenses, defenses for the first time and their ability to gel together. And then, we're really going to lose summer workouts too, and that ability to be on campus and do that. What have you heard from your guys, coaches? How do you plan around that stuff?
Well, I think obviously not having practice is hard because you formulated a depth chart, but I really believe in coaches. The more I've done this, I think coaches really truly believe we need 50 practices before we can play a game. I don't think that's the case. We could probably practice 10 times and figure it out. And go out.
We might find out.
Right. And that's what this whole thing has been, is that we're going to figure it out as we go. And yeah, what we're going to end up doing when we come back, because I firmly believe we'll be back at some point, we're going to have to do joint practices, split the practices. And we're going to have to, one group is here, one group is here, and it's going to be more on the coaches, because we're going to have to formulate a depth chart, and we're going to have to figure out who can play, who can't. And it's going to be different than anything we've ever done. But if we make it a big deal, the kids will make it a big deal. I'm not going to make it a big deal. We're going to do whatever we can with the time we have, and we'll figure it out from there. I think the other thing too is that I know from a personal perspective, this is 7 weeks. I've had an opportunity to be with I have 3 boys, 6, 3, and 1. I'll never get this time back. Unbelievable. We were just down fishing. Now, between me and the boys, nobody knows how to throw a line or anything like that. But we had a great time, and this is time that I'm not going to get back. And
did anybody fall in?
No, nobody.
Had to think about it though.
Mom wasn't there, so yeah, nobody fell in.
Betsy, your team, obviously lost the ability for the remainder of their season. You had the opportunity to play a few games, but really, nothing that any of us have ever dealt with before. And I keep going back to that March date where we sat in the visiting stands of the football field and talked to the teams. And there's some nights I wake up and I can see their faces as we're telling them, that they're not going to play anymore. At that time it was 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. We kind of believed that it might not happen at all at that point in time. But how did they adjust? Who did you see step up? Have you been surprised with the leadership that you've seen, or is it something that you expected?
No, I guess I would say it's something I expected. I think we have a lot of personalities on our team, but they're a very strong group of kids, and going through this, like, meeting for that meeting that you just mentioned, I was like, this is going to be terrible. It's 3 weeks. And then a week later, it was like, sorry, it's canceled. That was like, it broke my heart. And it broke all of their hearts, parents, everyone. So to kind of just sit and wait is the worst thing. So it's the little things of trying to send them, like, strength and conditioning have done a great job of sending out, like, personalized workouts for them based on what equipment they have. And it's kind of just saying, like, you know what it's like to play half a season and to get it taken away from you. So now is the time to put that work in. And obviously it starts with academics, but I mean, I think our junior class has done a really good job of staying on top of people and really being motivated, because they're a huge class. They're a very talented class, and they want redemption for this season for sure. So I think it's going to trickle down into our underclassmen for sure.
How about summertime, staying in touch with everybody, and what are you guys looking at as right? This is we'd normally be looking at today. I think today would have been, this isn't going to air today, but the day we're taping this is the last day of exams. So people would have been going home, with the exception of baseball, which still had, a weekend series this weekend, and then the tournament on Memorial Day next weekend. Everybody else would have been going home at least for a little bit. But really, with the opportunity to come back, and that's not going to happen. So how do you help your teams adjust to that reality? And I guess, how do we, because we're all getting the same questions, what's going to happen in the fall, what's going to happen in the fall, and we just don't know. So Dave, first, how do we deal with those questions, and how do you talk to your team about that stuff?
I tell them that we're going to move forward as if there's going to be a fall season, because we don't know that there's not. And there's more questions than answers. Certainly, I know you don't have the answer, and I don't have the answer. None of us do. So the only thing we can do is prepare as if there's going to be a season, and my staff and I will move forward like that. And whatever comes down the pipe, whatever adjustments we have to make, whatever decisions we have to make, we just have to be prepared to be nimble and roll with it.
Ryan, how about you?
Well, I think if you're going to preach one day at a time, I think that's exactly what Dave said. We don't know what this is. We're going to have to adapt on the fly, and we'll figure it out as it comes. And I don't know. Nobody has all the answers. I think we need to obviously make an educated decision in terms of when everybody's going to come back. But the nice thing is that kids at this age are resilient, and they will, if they believe what you're saying, they'll fall in line. And I've always said to the players, the best teams, they police themselves. So you need to be reaching out to one another, not just the coaches reaching out to you. But if we're going to be a good team, good football team, we need the captains or the older players with more experience to take on that role and lead us through this time. Because I really believe that it will be different, but we will figure out a way to get it done. And how we're going to do that is we all stick together. Bets,
have you seen that from your team?
Yeah, definitely.
There's a certain senior on your team that has my cell phone number, which I'm going to have to change. If this interim tag ever goes away, I'm going to have to get a new cell phone number, I think.
You're just so popular. One of the things that I always say, and my players can vouch for me, is you have to be able to control what you can control. So, like, we can't control what the state of Connecticut's doing. We can't control what the refs want to call that day. Like, you have to control what you can control, and that's your academics, and that's how much work you want to put in to the off season. That's how much effort you want to put in, so that when we get back and we get the green light, we can jump right in. We don't have to, like, ease ourselves into it. We can get ready to go.
I think one of the things that's important, and we've talked about it in staff meetings and with student athletes when we've had the chance to talk to them, is that we'll be nothing but honest with them when it comes to this process. Okay, what we know is what they're going to know. When we find out things, they're going to find them out. And to be as transparent as we can, to make sure that they can believe in us and know that we're trying to do what's best for them. And I think that's what made that day in those football stands so difficult, was we were making decisions based on health and safety and what we believed was best for them. But the emotions were so understandable, and you knew they were coming, and to not maybe take personally some of those comments come out, whether they're on social media, whether someone's talking to you, after the fact, and just make sure and to get them to truly understand that every decision we make is for their health and safety, and to make sure that they can have the best student athlete experience possible. And, right now we're not sure what that means for the fall. So, and we'll prepare, and, we'll prepare for every scenario, whether that means they're coming back or we're hybrid or we're not coming back or whatever that means. I think we'll know more in the next, 4 to 6 weeks on what's happening, but, it's kind of wait and see at this point. But what things, Ryan, you mentioned you had a chance to spend some time with your boys, and my brother's a football coach, and I played college football, so I understand that the life of a college football coach means that you're not really home ever. So you've had that opportunity. But Bets, what have you done? What have you noticed? You've had a chance to, Carrie Reeves told us the other day that she's cooking more. She loves to cook, but she as a basketball coach, she always eats out. But now she understands that she likes to cook. Have you been able to do anything different in these last 6 or 7 weeks?
I feel like I'm ordering out more. So if she wants to transfer on those recipes to me, that would be great. But honestly, Babs is thriving. She loves having me home 24/7. But it definitely stinks though, because I'd be out at high school games right now. Well, not right now, but for the spring, watching kids and like watching their parents, meeting their families. And now I just feel like I have to do these emails and these calls, and they're just so impersonal compared to what we used to do when we go out and do meet and greets. But in terms of what I'm doing now, just walking more. I'm pretty fit. So.
I mentioned it, Carrie, because Carrie says her brother lives in West Hartford. So when she cooks, she brings up meals. And Eric Blake and I were on the call together. And I said, Carrie, we're right here. And then the next day I was out walking with my wife, and she drove by and beeped as we were walking outside. Dave, what have you had the opportunity to do a little bit more of in the last few weeks?
Well, one thing I definitely noticed is that, I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and it's great being able to be with them and help them with their school. And my wife works from home, and so we're all here together, and that's great. But what's really important is having an hour or two where I'm gone and I'm mountain biking, or I'm running, or I'm doing a workout, or doing whatever it is. And then when I come back, I'm ready to be back and be a husband and be a dad and do everything I need to do. But I'm finding it's really important just to have that little bit of space, that little bit of time every day, just to kind of get away and decompress and be myself and be alone. And then I can go back to being a dad and being a father. And so it teaches me to, I guess, value the time that we are together by just having a little bit of quiet time on my own.
Well, you go from not much to 24/7, right? And,
Yeah.
Betsy, you mentioned your dog, but my bulldog still can't adjust to everybody being home because she's used to sleeping 20 hours a day, and she's still wondering. And the separation anxiety when we all eventually leave again is going to be through the roof, I'm sure. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on and talk to us, and share some of your stories and some of the things that your teams are going through. Certainly unprecedented times, and we appreciate you taking the time with us, and we look forward to when we can do this in person again.
Yeah.
But thank you to the three of you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
That's my pleasure.
No problem.
Thank you.